You're too slow to make decisions. At our pace, we can't slow down because of risks. This is the last thing I heard from the director before I was fired. My name is Jerry Callahan. I'm 50 years old. I worked for the company for more than 20 years. Started as an accountant, then became the CFO. All these years I saved them from debt, from tax audits, from complete collapse. I did not bet on luck. I counted every number as if it were my own. But for them, it was not enough. One day I was accused of excessive caution and thrown out as used material, fired without gratitude, without compensation, without the right to say goodbye to the team. They did not know one thing. I knew all their weak points. I knew where their shadow schemes were stored, who held the money flow, who was involved in bypassing the reporting. 2 days later, I made the first move. And 2 months later, they begged me to stop. 2 days after they let me go, I made my first call to a journalist I once saved from bankruptcy by helping him settle his debts in exchange for a future favor. That favor? A full expose on the company's aggressive growth tactics and creative accounting, the kind of story that regulators love to read. But that was just the beginning. You see, they forgot one critical thing. I built the financial system they still used. Every shell account, every offshore transaction, every falsified report, I created them. Not because I wanted to cheat, but because they made me. And now, I knew how to unwind it all. While the media storm was building, I reached out to 3 of our oldest clients, the ones I personally brought in. I told them the truth, not the kind of truth that gets whispered at parties, the kind that gets contracts torn up overnight. They dropped the company within a week. Their revenue collapsed by 40%. Then came the audit. Then the lawsuits. Then the panic. I watched from the outside, quiet, careful, cold. The same traits they said made me unfit for modern leadership. They tried to reach me, offered a settlement, even begged me to come back and help fix things. But I wasn't interested in fixing anymore. I was interested in watching it all burn. And the best part? I hadn't even used my strongest card yet. That strongest card, her name was Rachel, senior compliance officer, brilliant, invisible, and my ex-wife. We hadn't spoken in years, not since the divorce, but some things are stronger than bitterness, like betrayal. She was the one who first warned me they were planning to push me out, said she overheard whispers in an executive meeting, said my name was already being scrubbed from future planning documents. So I called her, simple words, it's time. She didn't hesitate. Within 48 hours, she leaked over 300 internal emails, flagged transactions, internal risk reports, all signed, all dated, evidence no lawyer could bury. When the feds came knocking, they didn't knock gently. The CFO tried to flee to the Caymans. He didn't make it past customs. The CEO went silent, then resigned. The board issued a statement, deeply disappointed, isolated incident, working to rebuild trust. Too late. Their stock, down 78%. Their reputation, shattered. Their empire, collapsing. And me. I sat in a cabin deep in Montana, watching the headlines with a glass of 18-year-old scotch in hand. They thought I was too cautious, too slow. But they forgot one thing. The slowest fuse always leads to the biggest explosion. I didn't expect the calls. First, it was a junior analyst kid I'd mentored years ago, whispered thanks, said the place had become toxic, and what I did. You lit a fire no one else had the guts to start. Then came the journalists. Everyone wanted a quote, a comment, a soundbite. I gave them silence. But the silence didn't last. One night, 2:47 a.m., I woke to headlights outside the cabin. A black Escalade, windows tinted, engine running. No one should have known where it was. No one. I reached for the drawer. Not paranoia, just instinct. 3 soft knocks on the door. Then a voice. Mr. Callahan, we need to talk. Not the feds, not the press. Private, clean cut, smelled like old money and government clearance. You've caused quite the ripple, he said. Some very powerful people are not happy. He slid a file across the table. My name, my history, my father's military record, my son's school. "This isn't a threat," he said. "It's an offer. An offer to disappear or help them clean house elsewhere. Use what you know. Help us do what you did again. Off the books. High stakes." I looked him dead in the eye. "What makes you think I ever stopped?" He smiled when I said it, that kind of grin you only see on people who know too much and sleep too little. "No one ever really stops," he said. "They just wait for the right target." He stood up, straightened his coat, slid a card across the table. No name, just a number and a time. "Tuesday, 9 p.m. Answer the call and your world changes, again." Then he vanished into the night. I sat there in the cabin, holding the card like it was burning. Old instincts kicked in. I wiped the place clean by sunrise. No digital trace, no fingerprints, not even a coffee ring. Tuesday came. 9 p.m. I stared at the burner phone. It rang once. I picked up. Static, then a voice. "We have a list." A list of names. Corrupt executives, black-budget operatives, men who played with lives like poker chips. They wanted someone who knew the system, who could tear it down without making a sound. I didn't agree, not yet. But they'd already wired half the money, offshore, untraceable, more than I'd ever made in 20 years of loyalty. So I gave them one name. Just one. The man who fired me. 10 days later, he resigned for health reasons. I didn't even smile because that wasn't revenge. That was the opening move. They sent flowers to his office, a small gesture, black orchids. Everyone thought it was grief. I knew it was a message. One down. The next name on the list? Someone I used to trust. Cynthia Hart. CFO. Sharp as a knife and twice as cold. She was the one who whispered to the board that I was a liability in volatile markets. Cautious, she said, paranoid. Ironic, coming from someone laundering bonuses through 3 shell companies in Malta. I didn't need to fabricate evidence. I just needed to shine a light, one email, one anonymous tip to a journalist who still owed me a favor. And the dominoes started falling. SEC raid. Frozen assets. National news by morning. Cynthia didn't resign. She vanished. And that's when I realized this list wasn't about justice. It was about leverage. Every takedown echoed. And in those echoes, someone else was listening. Someone I hadn't heard from in 17 years. My brother. The one I thought was dead. His name was always off the books. Daniel Callahan. My older brother. Dead since 2008, or so I thought. When the email came, there was no subject line. Just a timestamp. 2008. You never asked what really happened. Attached was a photo, grainy black and white, of a man walking into a private airfield in Montenegro. It was him, older, beard, but the gait, the posture unmistakable. I stared at it for an hour. Then another. The timing couldn't be coincidence. Cynthia Hart disappears under a federal investigation. And suddenly the ghost of my brother surfaces. 17 years ago, Daniel walked into a deal we both knew was poison. An investment in a South African lithium firm that was really a front for arms logistics. He vanished 3 days after signing it. I buried an empty coffin. I delivered the eulogy. I blame myself for not stopping him. But now I had questions. And questions were dangerous currency in this world. I started digging. First, through the shell companies, the ones Cynthia used to funnel bonuses. All roads led to a firm called Virex Holdings. Officially dissolved in 2010. Unofficially, still very much alive. I traced Virex to an offshore server cluster based in the Cayman Islands. Military-grade encryption. But not impenetrable. Not for me. Inside, I found something unexpected, a list. Not of names, of dates, events, Crashes, collapses, mergers, deaths. Each one linked. Each one like a thread in a web I hadn't known existed. And right in the middle? My name. Not Jerry Callahan, but a code name I hadn't seen in over 20 years, Graybird. The kind of name you earn when you've done things you don't talk about. Not in boardrooms, not in confessionals. If my name was on that list, then someone was hunting. Or warning. And maybe my brother wasn't the only one who faked a death. There's a protocol they teach you in covert finance, something they call dead branch accounting. It's the practice of pruning a part of the tree so the rot doesn't spread. Burn the ledger, rewrite the trail, bury the witness. I realized sitting in that dark apartment with nothing but the glow of the decrypted files on my screen that I had been pruned. Not because I was a threat, but because I had stopped asking questions. And then, out of nowhere, I started again. And someone noticed. 3 days after I accessed the Virex cluster, I found my apartment door slightly ajar when I got home. Nothing stolen. Just a thumb drive placed carefully on my kitchen table, wrapped in a napkin from the restaurant my brother and I used to go to as kids. Inside the drive, one file, a 34-second video. No audio. Just grainy footage from what looked like an underground parking garage. The timestamp, July 14th, 2008, the date of Daniel's death. In the clip, I see him, walking toward a black SUV. Another man steps out, hands him a passport. Daniel opens it, nods, and says something I can't hear. Then he turns to face the camera, looks straight into the lens, and smiled. They didn't prune Daniel. They replanted him. But why? Why fake his death, embed him under another name, and keep him close to this global web of corruption? Unless he was never a victim. Unless he chose this. Unless all this time he wasn't warning me. He was testing me. And if that's true, then I've already failed. Or worse, I've passed. I didn't sleep that night. The image of Daniel's smile haunted me not just because he was alive, but because of how he looked at the camera. It wasn't fear, it wasn't surprise, it was recognition. Like he knew someone would be watching years later, like the whole thing had been scripted. I spent the next 48 hours tearing through encrypted backups, offshore banking networks, and satellite routing logs. I even pulled favors from old contacts I swore I'd never speak to again. And then I found it. Buried in a mirrored shell company in Singapore was an insurance fund, $37 million under the name DK Holdings. DK, Daniel Killian. But that wasn't the part that made my blood run cold. The beneficiary listed on the account was me. Why? Why would Daniel leave me that money, unless it wasn't for me, unless it was a message? I thought about deleting it, walking away, disappearing, but by then it was too late. They knew I'd seen it. The same night, my phone lit up with a restricted number. I didn't answer, but they left a voicemail. A woman's voice, calm, too calm. "Hello, Jerry. We need to talk about what you've inherited. There's more at stake than you understand. You have 6 days." She didn't leave a name. That was 3 days ago. Since then, my apartment's been broken into twice. Once they left nothing. The second time they left an envelope. Inside it, an old photograph of me and Daniel. We were 16. He had drawn a red circle around his own face and written one word below it. Traitor. But I don't know if it was a warning or a confession. What I do know is this. I'm not just uncovering something. I'm being drawn into it. And whatever inheritance Daniel left me, it's not money. It's war. I didn't leave the apartment for the next day and a half. I rerouted my IP 6 different ways, monitored every camera feed within a 3-block radius, and slept with my Glock under the pillow. But paranoia only keeps you safe until you start needing answers more than safety. So I went to the only person who would know how deep this went. Vincent Rowe. Ex-CIA asset, now a ghost who lived in the crawl spaces of the internet and the ruins of his past. We hadn't spoken in 10 years, not since Marrakesh. But the moment I sent the signal, I got a burner call in under 30 minutes. You should have stayed dead, Jerry. Yeah, well, wait. Apparently, so should Daniel. Silence. Then just, meet me, bring nothing. He looked worse than I remembered, but his paranoia was worse than mine, which meant I could trust him. I handed him a copy of the voicemail, the photo, and the account logs. He didn't flinch. He just lit a cigarette and said one thing. This isn't about money. It's about containment. I stared at him. What does that mean? He turned the photo over. On the back was a faded watermark. I hadn't noticed it before. It was a cipher tag military grade. It traced back to Project Yarrow. I felt the breath catch in my lungs. Yarrow wasn't a project. It was a kill list. And Daniel Killian's name wasn't on it. Mine was. You weren't fired, Jerry, Vincent said. You were erased, but someone botched it, and now the people who buried you want to finish the job. He leaned closer, his voice low, shaking slightly. And the worst part, Daniel didn't betray you. He saved you. He took your place, faked his death, to give you time. Time for what? To finish what you both started. I didn't know what that meant, not yet, but I was done running. If they wanted war, they picked the wrong man to wake from the dead. Vincent's words hung in the air like smoke. My mind raced, trying to piece everything together, but it felt like the puzzle had more pieces missing than I could count. Project Yarrow, the kill list, Daniel's death, my own name, sitting there like a target. I leaned forward, my hands trembling as I gripped the edge of the table. Tell me everything. Who's behind this? Vincent took a slow drag from his cigarette, his eyes flicking to the corners of the dimly lit room, as if waiting for someone to burst in at any second. When he spoke, it wasn't in the usual cryptic tones. There was fear in his voice now. It's not who you think, Jerry. The ones behind this? They're not just government operatives or some rogue agency. This goes much deeper. It's corporate. I felt my stomach drop. Corporate? After all these years, after everything I thought I understood, it was them. You remember Langston Global, right? The one who almost bought out your division years ago? I nodded. Langston. The name was enough to make my pulse spike. Langston Global was one of the biggest tech conglomerates in the world. They specialized in data mining, surveillance, and artificial intelligence projects. The same company I'd once worked for before the whole mess with Daniel went down. I'd thought they were just a faceless, soulless entity, but now they felt like a shadow creeping closer. They were playing both sides of the fence, Jerry. Government contracts, black ops, tech warfare, and you were right in the middle of it. Vincent leaned in closer, his breath heavy. They needed someone with your skills, someone who knew how to stay under the radar. And when you started asking questions, they knew you'd be a liability. So they erased you. And Daniel? Vincent grinned darkly, his eyes gleaming with something I couldn't place. Daniel didn't just save you, Jerry. He got involved with Yarrow. He was the inside man. He tried to shut them down. But when you went off the radar, they moved on him. They planned his death like a precision strike. But he faked it all. He went deep, deeper than they could trace. And now he's trying to finish the job you both started. I sat back, my mind spinning. Daniel hadn't betrayed me, he'd saved me. But why? Why would he take on all of this alone, risking everything? So what's next? I asked, my voice flat. Vincent flicked his cigarette onto the floor and crushed it under his boot. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small black drive. It was encrypted, but I knew exactly what it contained. This is Project Yarrow's mainframe, he said, sliding it across the table. You want to take down Langston Global? You'll need this. It's the blueprint, the code, the key. I stared at the drive for a long moment, then back at Vincent. I knew exactly what he was saying. If I take this, I'm all in. No turning back. Vincent nodded. His face was grim. You're already in, Jerry. You just don't know it yet. I took the drive. It felt heavier than it looked, like a 100-pound weight sitting in the pit of my stomach. There was no going back now. But even as I turned to leave, something gnawed at me. Daniel's betrayal. It hadn't been a betrayal. It had been a sacrifice. But what had Daniel uncovered that made him take such risks? What had been so dangerous that he was willing to die to stop it? I had no answers, but I knew one thing for sure. The storm was coming, and this time I wasn't running from it. The next few days were a blur. I dove into the code, decrypting everything I could on the drive. Every line of code, every file was a thread leading deeper into Langston's operation. What I found shocked me. Artificial intelligence algorithms designed not just for surveillance, but for control. These systems could manipulate media, political narratives, even entire financial markets, all in real time. Langston wasn't just gathering data, they were shaping the world. I could feel the weight of what I had to do next. But as I delved further, I started to get strange calls, messages I didn't recognize, warnings. And then a voice I hadn't heard in years. Jerry, you're getting too close. It was Daniel. I hadn't seen his face in over 2 years. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I knew he'd been out there, but this. What the hell are you doing, Jerry? He continued. If you keep pushing, you'll get both of us killed. You think I don't know that? I snapped. They killed you once, Daniel. I'm not going to let that happen again. There was a long pause. And then, in a voice so quiet it barely reached the phone, Daniel said, I never died, Jerry. I just disappeared. And now I need you to disappear too. The game had just shifted. Langston Global wasn't the only one pulling strings. Daniel wasn't just a part of the operation, he was the operation. And everything I thought I knew had been a lie. This was no longer about survival. This was about rewriting the rules, and I was just getting started. To be continued. I couldn't shake the weight of Daniel's words. They echoed in my mind like a ghost, haunting every step I took. I never died, Jerry. I just disappeared. The drive burned a hole in my pocket. Everything I'd been working towards suddenly felt irrelevant. If Daniel was really alive, if he had been playing the game all along, manipulating things from the shadows, what did that mean for me? What did that mean for the whole damn operation? I didn't trust Vincent. I didn't trust anyone anymore. But I had to admit one thing. Whatever Daniel was doing, it had to be big. And whatever Langston Global had in store for me, it was even bigger. I spent the next few days digging through the code, trying to figure out what the hell Project Yarrow actually was. At first, it looked like just another classified government project. A few lines of code here, a few surveillance programs there. But the deeper I got, the more I realized something else. The system wasn't just tracking people, it was controlling them. The AI wasn't just about monitoring behavior. It was manipulating emotions, altering thoughts, even predicting actions before they happened. It wasn't just about data anymore. It was about power, absolute control. And Langston Global? They weren't building this for the government. They were building it for themselves. They wanted to play God. I knew I had to expose them. But first, I needed answers. The phone call came late that night, just as I was ready to turn in. I recognized the number. It was blocked, of course, but I'd gotten enough of those in the past few days to know exactly who it was. Jerry, you're in a way over your head. You don't understand what you're dealing with. It was Daniel. His voice was low, urgent. What the hell is this, Daniel? I've seen the files. I know what's coming. You need to tell me what the hell's going on. He sighed, as if he were disappointed in me. You think you can just waltz in, expose everything, and walk away?" His voice hardened. "They won't let you. Langston Global isn't just a corporation. It's a machine, Jerry. A machine that runs this world, and you can't stop it. None of us can." My blood ran cold. "Then why didn't you tell me this before?" I demanded. "You were supposed to be my ally." "I was never your ally," he replied, his tone suddenly colder than ice. "I did what I had to do to survive, just like you. But this is bigger than us. It's bigger than all of us." A chill ran down my spine. I had always known that things had gotten out of control. But hearing it from Daniel, hearing him admit that there was no way out, made it real. Too real. "So what? You're just giving up?" I asked, my voice shaking with frustration. There was a pause. "No, I'm not giving up," Daniel said, quieter now. "But you have to understand, Jerry, you're not going to be able to take Langston Global down the way you think, not without becoming part of the system yourself." The words hit me like a punch in the gut. I didn't want to believe him. But what if he was right? "Then what do you expect me to do?" I asked, desperate. He was silent for a long time, as if he were weighing his options. "There's one way," he said finally, "but you'll have to leave everything behind, your life, your identity, everything." The next few days felt like a whirlwind. I tried to keep my cool, but everything was unraveling. I couldn't ignore what Daniel had said. There was no turning back now. The deeper I went into Langston's files, the more I realized that the AI wasn't just some government program. It was a global takeover, a silent revolution that no one even knew was happening. And if Daniel had been right, if the system could predict our every move, then maybe this was the end of free will. But what really shook me to my core was when I stumbled upon one of the final files, the one I wasn't supposed to see. It was a video, a recording of Langston's top executives sitting around a table discussing the final stage of Project Yarrow. "When we release the algorithm, we'll have control over every government, every business, every person," one of the executives said, a smug grin on his face. "They won't even know they're being controlled. We'll be gods." My blood ran cold. I watched the video over and over again, the implications of it sinking in deeper with each passing second. Langston wasn't just building a system to monitor the world, they were creating an empire. I knew what I had to do. But as I sat there, staring at the screen, I realized there was one last piece of the puzzle I hadn't figured out. Where the hell was Daniel? Just as I thought I might be able to track him down, a knock came at my door. My heart skipped a beat. I wasn't expecting anyone. I grabbed the gun I had hidden under the couch and approached the door slowly. Through the peephole, I saw nothing but darkness, but when I opened the door, there was a small envelope taped to the front. I grabbed it, tearing it open. Inside, there was a single line of text. "They're coming for you, Jerry. They're already here." It was time to make a choice. I could feel the weight of the envelope in my hands as I read those words. "They're coming for you, Jerry. They're already here." I glanced around my apartment. The walls felt closer, the air heavier. I was being watched. I didn't know how, I didn't know by whom, but I could feel it. The trap was closing in, and I was right in the center of it. I grabbed the files, cramming them into my bag. There was no time to think anymore, no time to plan. I had to move. I rushed through the door and down the stairs of the building, my breath shallow, my mind racing. But as soon as I stepped outside, I froze. There were cars parked along the street, every one of them black, unmarked, and ominous. I tried to blend in, walking quickly down the sidewalk, but my instincts screamed that something wasn't right. My pulse was pounding in my ears. And then it hit me. I turned to look behind me, and there, standing at the far end of the street, was a man in a dark suit. He was watching me, calm and patient, too patient. I took a deep breath, reaching for the gun tucked under my jacket. But as I did, I felt something cold against my neck. I froze. I didn't hear the footsteps. I didn't see him coming. "Jerry Callahan," a voice whispered, calm and almost amused. "You're a hard man to find." I slowly turned my head to see another figure standing behind me. A man in a suit, face expressionless, and there was something about him, something familiar. Then it hit me. It was Daniel. But this wasn't the Daniel I had once known. This man was different, cold, calculated. Daniel? I whispered in disbelief, my voice barely above a breath. What the hell is going on? His lips curled into a slow smile. I told you, Jerry, he said almost pityingly. I never died. I just disappeared. My heart skipped a beat. Everything I thought I knew, everything I'd fought for was a lie. I wasn't chasing down Langston Global anymore. I wasn't fighting some faceless corporation. I had been chasing Daniel all along. The man I thought was my ally, the man I had trusted, had been playing the game from the very start. He had set this entire thing up. Why, Daniel? I choked out. Why betray me? His smile widened, but there was no warmth in it, just cold calculation. Because, Jerry, he said, his eyes now glinting with something I couldn't quite place, I'm not interested in saving the world. I'm interested in owning it, and you're the perfect pawn to help me do that. Before I could react, he snapped his fingers. The world went dark. When I woke up, I was no longer in my apartment. I was in a stark, sterile room, the walls white and harsh. There were no windows, no doors, just a table in the center, and on it, the files I had been carrying. And sitting across from me, grinning like a devil who'd won, was Daniel. He had orchestrated this entire thing, from the beginning. Langston Global, just a stepping stone. The real goal was always about one thing, total control, and now I was his captive audience, the last piece in his grand game. But what I didn't know, what neither Daniel nor Langston ever counted on, was that while I'd been running, fighting, trying to stay one step ahead, there was something they didn't realize about me. They didn't know who I was. And they didn't know how far I was willing to go. The game was about to change.